Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Watt, let me add my voice of congratulation to all those that have been expressed here today. Much deserved. You'd indicated in your written testimony, and it's been alluded to, that on the 22nd of December, you approved a merger between the Federal Home Loan Banks of Seattle and Des Moines. Mr. Lucas, by the way, I believe that's the first, is it not?
It is, yes.
I'm going to confidently predict it won't be the last. Mr. Lucas also referred to the concerns among many of us in Congress about the new membership rules, which I don't want to relitigate this, but I want to state for the record, and you and I had a semi-private disagreement about this. I think both FHFA and Congress is missing an opportunity here to take a step back and re-examine just exactly what the role of the Federal Home Loan Bank should be going forward.
But be clear, that's exactly what we're doing in this evaluation process. We got 1,300 comments. We're going through every single one of them before we make a final determination of what the final rule is. So we're in that taking a step back, looking at all of the input that we have received. Just because we put out a proposed rule is not a final rule, right? So we're doing exactly what you suggested.
It's not the specific rule that I am focused on. It is the larger issue of what role do we want the Federal Home Loan Banks to play in this new world that doesn't look like it did when they were created in 1932 or thereabouts.
But Congress has made that determination. That's not a determination that I'm...
Which is exactly what you said to me earlier during our semi-private disagreement. I think it is something that you could do to advance to us policy proposals. I also think that it is an issue that members of this committee could well take up and ask the basic questions. What role do we want them to play? Is it strictly housing? Is it liquidity? Are there other ways that they can be constituted given the way that the whole world... But it's not really my question. I do have a question. My question does relate to the approved merger, again, which I don't believe will be the last. I had communicated to you in correspondence deep concerns held by people in the region about the continuing commitment of any merged regional bank to invest in housing. Also communicated to you concerns about governance. Also communicated to you concerns about operational issues, because after all, Director Watt, this is a 5-time zone Federal Home Loan Bank region now. And we've repeatedly asked for the letter setting forth the terms and conditions. We've been repeatedly told we cannot have it. We cannot know what those are. I want you to know that as that relates to sensitive financial matters, I completely understand. But I do not know what the compelling public policy good is served by withholding information about how we will proceed with respect to the concerns that have been brought to you by many in the region.
During the pendency of a merger, for us to be putting out information that is still in the process of being discussed and negotiated, I think as an independent regulator would be irresponsible. I'm sure every one of these things will be addressed, but I mean, we have a fiduciary responsibility. We have a trust responsibility as regulator here, not to put out information that could jeopardize the discussions, and I hope you understand that.
Well, I acknowledge and embrace your fiduciary responsibility. Issues relating to housing investment and governance and operational issues that allow for access, I don't personally believe fall within that realm.
I can't assure you that the merged Federal Home Loan Bank will be held to the same high standards on those issues that we have held the two independent banks to, right? So we're not going to relax the standard just because the standards that we expect of them just because they're a merged bank.
Knowing as you
can be assured of that.
Knowing you as I do, what I would expect no less, sir, and I thank you. One last quick question. Insofar as both Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae are under conservatorship, insofar as you are moving pretty quickly toward a common securitization platform, Can you identify any compelling public benefit for these two entities other than it is status quo to be separate as opposed to one?
Well, you know, that's a public debate that I think should be had. There's a value to competition because it makes both enterprises better. We have aligned Fannie and Freddie's practices on a number of issues that were important to the public policy objectives. But I think there's some value to allowing them to compete on things that don't have a public policy imperative to them. So I guess, but we have aligned them on a number of issues.
I would take it that quality of service would be an example of that.
Well, if you talk to one of them as opposed to the other, they will tell you that their quality of service is higher than the other one, depending on which one you talk to. But it's important for them to continue to compete on the quality of the service that they delivered. That's one of the things that it is important for them to compete on.
It seems
we don't
arguable
want them
to me
competing on a race to the bottom to extend more and more irresponsible credit. You know, there are a whole range of things that we don't want them competing on, and there are some things that we continue to allow them to compete on.
So it seems arguable to me whether or not that benefit trumps the economies of scale, given that for all practical purposes we own them both. With that, I yield back the time I do not have and thank the Chair for his indulgence.
The Chair now